and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're coming to you live from PACT's head office in Reading. My name is Emma Owen and I'd like to introduce my colleagues here. Hannah Jennings is our Enquiries and Placements Manager and Mandy Davis is our Reading Adoption Team Manager. And today we are going to be talking about the adoption process. Now, some people might think that it's a very lengthy and daunting process, but we're here today to reassure you that it doesn't have to be lengthy, and in fact it could even be described as enjoyable. So we're going to take you through the process step by step. If you have any questions at all while we're broadcasting, please do comment below or send us a private message and we'll do our very best to answer those questions before the end of today. So get commenting. So let's start from the beginning. We're assuming here that someone has already done some research online and they've investigated the options available and they have arrived here with us at PACT and they want to take the first step. So Hannah, can you tell us what happens when somebody picks up the phone or emails us and they actually make an inquiry?
Okay, so we have an email and an inquiries line that's manned, and when people call in, there's somebody on the end of the phone who's got years of experience who's able to talk to them about the process, ask them questions that we kind of need to know before we can take them to the next stage and offer them an interview.
So what sorts of things would you ask people at that stage?
So they might ask them, how many spare rooms do you have? What do you do for work? Could one of you be at home for 12 months? We encourage people to come to our information evenings where they can hear from adopters who have adopted through PACT, and they're held across our 3 sites, Reading, London and Brighton. So it's really just to get to know the person, find out a bit more about them, and then from there we offer them an initial interview and get them into the office nearest to them.
I guess when people first come to us, they might have some really specific questions, about whether, do you have to be married or do you have to own your own home? Are those the sorts of questions that the inquiries team can answer?
Yeah, of course. You don't have to be in a position where you own your own home. You could be renting. You don't have to be married. We have people who adopt from all different walks of life. You could be married, you could be single. It's really about what you have to offer and are you going to be able to give a child or children, a loving, nurturing home.
Brilliant. Well, we'll talk, we said about information events there, and at the end we'll give you some information about how you can find out when the next information event is. So somebody's made an inquiry and they may have come to an information event. The next step is an initial interview, and then what happens next, Mandy?
Okay, so like Hannah said, you'll come into one of the PACT offices, so either Reading, Brighton or London, meet with one of the social workers in one of the teams, and they'll just go through some questions with you, maybe in a little bit more detail than they would have done with the inquiries team. And then after that interview, there's a decision made from yourselves and from us whether or not we think that adoption is right for you now, and if we're the right agency for you. Following on for that, if we're all happy to proceed, you move into what's called as stage 1 of the process. During this time, you will be allocated a social worker. It may be the same one that did your interview, it may be somebody different. And so they'll come and see you at home, they'll give you more details about the process and just start that relationship building really. During that first stage, you will also be asked to provide lots of information with regards to ID, so we can do checks. So we do lots of references, we take lots of references and we do lots of checks like a police check, health check, all the things you would expect really. I mean, it's so important that we get the right people for the children that are waiting. So all of that bit's done in stage 1. The other bit that we ask you to do is come on one of our preparation courses, which we get such good feedback from. I think people that come through PACT really enjoy that, and it's an opportunity to meet other adopters, but also learn much more about the children who are waiting for adoption, more about their backgrounds, birth parents, more again about the process, and also about preparing you. It's about giving you information, but it's also preparing you for the task ahead.
So how long approximately does that stage 1 take?
So stage 1 should be 8 weeks. So we should be able to get all of that done and completed in 8 weeks. Sometimes it's slightly quicker, sometimes it's slightly longer.
Okay. And then stage 2?
So yes, then all being well, move into stage 2. Now this is the assessment part. So you will still have the same social worker, but this is where you'll really get to know them, and they really get to know you very well. They'll do home visits to your house, usually about eight visits, around about an hour, 2 hours. But that again can vary. It depends how many people are in your family, you know, how much you talk. Some people talk a lot more than others, and some social workers talk a lot more than others. But that's just as a rough guide. And during that process, what they'll be doing is just gathering lots of information about you and your family. So we go right back, looking at your background, looking at, you know, your childhood, what's made you who you are today. Looking at your employment, education, and then moving towards the second half of the assessment, we're looking at the children who are waiting. So who are those children that are going to be best matched with you? And it is very much about that matching. It's not about who's next on the list to be matched with which child. It's we get to know you so well that we know then, when Hannah and her team are family finding, which we'll talk about in a minute, I'm sure, that we really know you when we know which children, you know, you're going to be best matched with. So once we've done that assessment, a report's written, and that goes to our adoption panel. The adoption panel is held in Reading, and that panel then makes a recommendation as to whether or not you've been approved or not, and then that final decision is made by our agency decision maker. It seems like quite an in-depth process. I think some people, you've mentioned before, some people love it, find it quite fun, but on the plus side, we have another course for you to come to in that time as well. So we've got another 2-day course, which again is all about preparing you, and we do lots of helping you understand about the children and perhaps different approaches to parenting, and some kind of therapeutic approaches.
And just to mention here, the applicants can also log on to the Adopter Hub at this point, can't they?
Absolutely, yeah, and we definitely encourage them to. We've got so much good stuff on there.
That's an online adoption support service that's run by PACT, and it's a real wealth of information for anybody in that stage of the process and beyond, just to find out, you know, what other people, what support you can get from other adopters. So, and the length of stage 2?
So the length of stage 2 should be 4 months. So when you're adding up stage 1, stage 2, 6 months. That's what we're looking at from when you've had your initial interview and we're all in agreement to go ahead to you being recommended for approval at panel and approved is 6 months. Again, you know, it can be done quicker, and we've got actually in PACT a very good history of completing those slightly quicker. But it can take longer as well. You know, we're people, and things happen, and people have holidays or sickness and things. So, you know, it's really about what's best for the people coming forward.
Thank you. So we'll go back to Hannah now, because at the point of approval, obviously the very exciting part of family finding starts. So this is where independent adoption agencies are very different from a local authority experience. Do you want to tell us about what happens with family finding?
Yeah, so every adopter or adopters is allocated a family finder, and they meet with you once you're approved at panel, and from then they begin searching for you in terms of children and to find the right child for you, ideally as quickly as possible. So the good thing about PACT is not only that you have a dedicated family finder, which is very different from a lot of, well, LAs and voluntary agencies, but that we're not restricted in where we search. So your child could come from Scotland, your child could come from Cornwall. We will search all over the UK to find the right child or children for you. And because of that, we're kind of one of the fastest voluntary agencies in terms of how quick we're able to link and match our adopters with children, because you have somebody who's searching and finding children for you on a daily basis.
And so from the adopter's point of view, I mean, how are they receiving those children? You know, how are they choosing from the children that are available?
So we receive profiles here directly as an agency from local authorities all over the UK, and we send those on to our adopters that are approved that we're family finding for. And there's also a website that our adopters use, where they can search directly for children that are available for adoption, and we search on that website also to find children that match what our adopters are looking for in terms of what they have to offer. So they're the kind of main search tools that we use. The work PACT has a very good reputation, and word of mouth is where we get most of our matches from, LAs that have worked with us before like to work with us again, so they always keep us in mind when they have children available that they need adopters for.
Okay. And what do the adopters say to you about what it's like for them receiving those profiles, and when they spot the one that they think is going to become their child? What's that like? What do they say?
Yeah, so I think it's that, it can be quite overwhelming, but I think there's that moment of magic where they know that this is potentially their child or children that they are going to be linked and then matched with. The good thing about having a family finder is that they support you on that roller coaster. It can sometimes be, if you're not chosen, or it takes slightly that bit longer to find the right child or children, but you know that you're in good hands and that you are going to get to the kind of the end of the rainbow. So I think adopters love that magic moment when they see the profile and they're then visited, and we can then tell them actually it's been successful and you're going to be matched and adopt this child or children.
Fantastic. So can you tell us briefly what that part of the process is where it's been approved that you can adopt this child or children, and what happens then? How do they go about actually coming to live with you?
So the local authority where that child or children are from would have come and visited you in your home, and they would then go away and make a decision about if they wanted to proceed and match you with that child or children, and the adopter or adopters would do the same. If both parties agreed, it would be called a potential link. And then the next stages would be your social worker from PACT going to that local area with you, local authority area, and doing things like meeting the medical advisor, the foster carer. If the child's in nursery, you might meet the nursery leader or the nursery teacher that's their one-to-one person. So you do those meetings, and then your social worker and the adopters prepare paperwork that goes to a matching panel at that local authority. Adopters go to that matching panel with their PACT social worker, and once that panel has agreed that yes, this adopter or adopters are the right match for this child or children, then they start introductions. And really depending on the child or the children and their ages and their needs, they can vary kind of from a week to 2 weeks, kind of depending. And you would go to wherever that child or children is for that introduction period.
Okay, and you see them every day?
Every day. So it might be like an hour the first day, then it gradually builds up, but it might be an hour the first day, 2 hours the second day. Maybe the next day you do a morning, the next day you do an afternoon. So it builds up gradually, so you're doing different parts of their day with them.
And then, D-Day?
And then, yeah, once the introductions are finished, the adopters bring that child or children back to their home.
Fantastic. And then the fun really starts. So back to Mandy. So life as a PACT family, we don't just let the families get on with it, do we?
No, we don't. No, so Hannah talked about her team and the family finders being involved, helping with that, finding and identifying the child or children. But your social worker will still stay involved as well. And again, hopefully and usually it's the same social worker. So they'll be supporting you to, like Hannah said, the linking matching. But then when the children come in, they will also be visiting you. So in the early days, they're quite frequent, those visits. So your social worker, who you know very well, will visit you, but also the child or children's social worker, who knows them very well, will visit quite often. And that's about weekly for the first month. After that, the visits can lessen slightly. So you might go to fortnightly, then you might go to monthly. And all those visits carry on until you make your application for the adoption order to court and the adoption order is made. During that time, you've still got access to the hub, which is really great because you've got your peer support there, you've got your webinars, so you can always access that as 24 hours. But in addition to that, we've got other things in PACT, which are, again, I think quite unique to VAAs, voluntary adoption agencies and local authorities, in that we've got therapeutically trained social workers who can go in and support families, and we've also got a therapeutic service. So all of those can be accessed at any time, really. So it's up until the adoption order, but also after the adoption order. Some people, when they have the adoption order, say goodbye, and we don't see anything of them for the next couple of years. Other people are very involved. We have family fun days, which are in all of our areas, which are great, and it's great for us, isn't it, to see families years down the line and seeing the children and how the children are just doing fantastic. So that's something, and we have ongoing training as well. I talked about the training all through the preparation, but it doesn't end at that. We have some really excellent training of, to help you with maybe talking to your children about adoption at different times in their life, but also about understanding this thread of attachment all the way through. We do an attachment focused parenting course as well.
Great. Well, thank you for mentioning the support. We will be talking more in depth about adoption support in a future webcast, so do watch this space. We talked about information events right at the beginning of this, and if you like what you hear and you would like to find out more about adopting with PACT, we do recommend you come to one of our information events. The next few, I'll tell you when they are, but you can also visit our website to see ongoing ones. We've got Reading tomorrow, which is Wednesday the 6th of February at 6:30 p.m. We've got a drop-in at our Brighton team on Friday the 8th of February at 11 a.m. We've got an information evening in Oxford on Tuesday the 26th of Feb at 6:30, and we have one in London, Pimlico, on Wednesday the 27th of February at 6:30 p.m. So if you'd like to attend one of those or see when future events are held, please look at our website, which is pactcharity.org. You can also call our enquiries line when you'll speak to Hannah's team, and that number is 0300 456 4800. And on our website also you could download a brief guide to adoption which summarises some of what we've said today and gives lots of other information about adoption. So have you had any questions? We have had some questions. Somebody's asked about whether about the spare room. I know, Hannah, you did mention this earlier. So do adopters need to have a spare room to adopt?
Yeah, so there needs to be a spare room for the adopted child, and quite often if they're siblings, they may need a spare room each. Not in all cases. In some cases, if they're same-sex siblings or they're younger children, they may be able to share to begin with. But quite often, local authorities kind of would like to know that eventually they would have a room of their each. So yeah, you do definitely need to have a spare room.
Okay. Also, I'd like to ask if if somebody wanted to make an extension on their house or something, how does that impact on if you're starting the adoption process, if you're planning some work in your own home?
Well, I mean, there is scope for you to take a break between stage 1 and stage 2, and you can have a 6-month break without having to start stage 1 again. That being said, I think we would both agree that you lose some momentum by doing that. So if you are going to do any large extensions or move house, it's probably best to do it now before you go any further. Because once you get into stage 1, it's good then to carry on with that and go through to stage 2, and then obviously get your children matched with you.
Great, thank you. We've had another question. Am I too old at age 45?
No.
Which is not old.
No, it's not. Very young. No, not at all, not at all. And I think that's probably left. It's quite a historical thought, you know. And years ago, even when I first started in adoption, there used to be a 40-year age gap, but that is no longer. And I think that's good. I mean, it reflects society. Women are having children much later in life. What's more important is, you know, that you're physically well and healthy rather than a number.
Somebody's asked if they are able to talk to an adopter, somebody who's done it before they decide whether it's for them.
Absolutely, and one of the things, I know we're going to do another one of these on support, but I didn't mention that we have adopter champions that are our PACT adopters who they can talk to, who are happy to ring them or have face-to-face conversations. And we also have, I talked about some of our PACT adopters going and not seeing them anymore, but we have lots that stay in touch. Our information evenings have always got them there, you know, and they're at our fun days. So yeah, lots of opportunities to talk to other adopters.
And it's almost the best way, isn't it, to talk to somebody who's done it, been
definitely.
there, they understand.
Definitely.
And one other question is, somebody who's already got a baby that's interested in adoption, how does having a child already affect things?
Well, I think, you know, on the plus side, you're already a parent, so, you know, you've already got a lot of those skills. I think what we have to be mindful of is your capacity to have 2 children. And when we're looking at adopted children, we're talking about children that need a lot more kind of love and attention. So as a general rule, what we'd say is if you've got birth children or if you've already got an adopted child in the family, that we'd need at least a 2-year gap between them. So if you've got a 5-year-old, we would be saying you can only really consider a 0 to 3-year-old. The older the child is, the better really, because otherwise you're restricting yourself. If you're only looking at a 0 to 2-year-old or a 0 to 3-year-old, your pool of children that you're considering is much smaller. And for an agency, we want you to be as wide as you possibly can in your consideration. But it's not a bar to adoption at all. And like I say, and actually being already a parent can be really helpful.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Hannah and Mandy, and thank you for joining us. Our website again is pactcharity.org. Please do have a look on there for more information about adopting with PACT, and we hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.